This podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Between the time when gamers played with miniatures and chainmail and the rise of the Wizards of the Coast, there was an age of advanced role-playing undreamed of. And onto the Skygax, destined to bear the jeweled crown of TSR upon a troubled brow, it was given to teach us all how to roll for initiative.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to the Roll for Initiative podcast. This is issue number 125. I am DM Vince, sitting alongside DM Nick.
Hi, everybody.
And in addition to our cast, DM Chad.
Hey there.
And DM... Matt is not here this week. Matt is actually...
I think he's doing a HeroClix thing this week, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he said he was doing something with HeroClix, probably.
Yeah, I think he was actually, refereeing a tournament or something.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I forgot. That's right, he is. So Matt is off into greener pastures. No, kidding.
No, he's not dead.
Oh, whoops.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Well, this week we have a really special show for everybody out there. We actually got two of the authors of the game Torchbearer that just recently had its books published. They just got them recently. Am I correct, Tor?
Yeah. Actually, I have one of these beautiful books in my hands right now.
Awesome. And you had some great pictures on G Plus up there showing the books, which really looked really nice. So why don't you guys take a second to introduce yourself, starting with Tor. Go ahead.
Sure. Hi there. I'm Tor Olafsrud. I'm Luke's longtime editor, and this is my the first game that I've designed, which I'm really excited about. Although I've been a developer on Burning Wheel and some of the other games that Luke has offered. So that's me.
Awesome. And Luke?
My name is Luke. Some of you might know me. I've designed Burning Wheel and Mouse Guard and Free Market, Burning Empires, stuff like that. I like to design role-playing games.
Yeah, obviously, because you designed this one too. So.
Well, I was more the whipmaster on this one. Tor was the designer.
So tell us a little bit about your background, Tor. We'll start with you first, and then Luke, about how you got into gaming and how long you've been gaming for, what's your favorite games, things like that.
Sure. I started gaming when I was 12 years old. One of my friends gave me the red box for my birthday, and I've been going strong ever since. So that D&D's was my start, like it is for so many people. And I've played lots of games since then, been all over the map. But these days, my favorite game, the one that I play the most, aside from Torchbearer, which is very near and dear, is Burning Wheel. I'm in one Burning Wheel game a week. It was up to 3 at one point. That was a little hard to sustain.
Wow,
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was good while it lasted, but it gets a little exhausting. I was running 2 of them and playing in one.
Wow.
And Luke?
Well, I just started gaming yesterday. I turned on my Xbox and put in Skyrim for the first time. And then I thought it would be a good idea to, I said, wow, what if we could do this in person on paper? This would be amazing. We could explore a world of our imaginations. So yeah, just popped into my head like that.
Magic, huh?
Like magic, yeah.
Awesome. Anyway, so Torchbearer, I've heard you guys reference it as a hack of Mouse Guard, and Mouse Guard obviously was nominated for 3 Annie nominations in 2009. So why don't we start with Mouse Guard first? What was the idea behind Mouse Guard, creating that game?
Well, I mean, in the first issue of Mouse Guard, there's one of the characters says to one of the other ones, "It's not what you fight, but what you fight for." And when my friend Clinton showed me that, I was like, "Oh wow, that's cool. That's spot on." So when the opportunity came up for us to design the RPG, it was our third game at that point, and so we had a pretty clear idea of a lot of the mistakes we had made and just the direction we went in. And I think the strongest suit for Mouse Guard was one that we had a tone for writing set up at the beginning, and just we wanted to be clear, instructive, and use as few negatives and imperatives as possible. If you read the Mouse Guard text, it's very much just you do this, you do this, you do this. There's no you do not do this. There's no you must do this. Or at least they're very rare. So that, and then the really interesting thing about Mouse Guard is it kind of came to us whole cloth. Like Tor and I sat down one day and concepted out the whole game, and it didn't change too much from that concept, which is different than the other games, which evolve through play. So yeah, we really like it, and we've played it a bunch, and lots of people seem to play it and like it. So it seems like a successful game.
Absolutely. Okay, so we got Mouse Guard going. Now all of a sudden, the idea of an old school role playing game comes out of it. You guys decide Torchbearer. What was the thoughts behind Torchbearer? How did that come to fruition?
Well, there were a lot of threads actually that sort of came together at the same time. I mean, one, I was really excited by what I saw going on in the OSR. I was playing and reading stuff like Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and later Adventure Conqueror King. I was looking at some of the OD&D stuff that I was getting in my hands on, and Moldvay, the Frank Menser basic stuff. So I was really excited about that, and I wanted to get some of that feeling back in my gaming. At the same time, one of the things that I was really excited about in Mouse Guard was the way it handled environmental challenges. In Mouse Guard, the weather, as well as things like streams and rivers and storms, forest fires, all that stuff is really exciting. Dealing with it is an adventure in and of itself. And so I really liked that concept. At the same time, people were so in Mouse Guard we had this idea of a GM's phase and a player phase. A GM's turn and a player's turn.
Right. And
people were really confused by that. They felt that it was a structure that they weren't used to. And for me, that idea really came out of D&D. The idea that you would go out and you'd go into the dungeon and you'd explore, and then once you'd had your expedition and you were getting a little low on resources, you'd head back to town and sort of resupply, rest, regain your hit points before heading out again. And so that's where the idea came from in Mouse Guard. And so with Torchbearer, it really started as a proof of concept to show where that idea came from, and it sort of metastasized and grew out of control.
Awesome. So the book, very well written and very well designed. Who did your design on the book? I'm looking for the name.
What kind of design do you mean?
The layout design. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all Luke.
I do all the layout for all my games.
Excellent job. I like how it flows very nicely. It's written really well as well, and editing very well. I see you got Jeff D to do some pictures in the inside.
Yep. He was very professional. He's still churning away out there, making all sorts of cool art for folks. So it was nice to be able to work with him.
Absolutely. So let's get a little into how the system works. I noticed that it's a D6 type base system. And after reading, everything is based on successes or scoundrels, as you call them, for failures. So why don't you tell me a little bit how it works? Obviously, the more successes, the better. And how do the scoundrels work against the successes?
Go for it, Tor.
Sure. So, like you mentioned, it's a D6 die pool system. So whatever you do, you're going to roll. Whether it's your a stat or a skill, you're going to roll its rating in dice. If you have a fighter of 4, you're going to roll 4 6-sided dice. And 4s, 5s, and 6s on results on those dice are successes. 1s, 2s, and 3s are scoundrels. And generally, you will be rolling either versus an opponent who's also rolling dice, and you want to get more successes than they do, or you're rolling against a set obstacle that you'll find. Most of our skills have what we call factors in the game that allow you to allow the GM to set an obstacle, and you want to meet or exceed that in numbers of successes. So pretty simple.
Okay. Hey,
Okay.
Luke, Tor, this is Chad. I wanted to ask, you guys have gotten some great press with both Forbes as well as Wired on Mouse Guard and on Torchbearer. And in the Forbes article, you were quoted as I believe, Luke, you were quoted as saying you called Torchbearer kind of an advanced Mouse Guard in Dragons. Can you get into that a little bit?
Oh, sure. We love Mouse Guard, but it's a pretty simple game. Like the complexity of the game doesn't deepen as you play for longer. It's got a flat complexity curve, which is great. And I'm very proud of that design for its accessibility, its simplicity. But Tor and I like deep games. Burning Wheel is a game that continues to grow with you. You can play Burning Wheel every week for years, and still, the game's going to expand in front of you. So we wanted to just bring a little bit of that sensibility back into Torchbearer.
Okay, well, how does that, now you also describe the PCs as being a bunch of murder hobos exploring improbable ruins because you can't
that's
get
where
real
the term
jobs.
comes from.
I love that, murder hobos.
Yeah, we've been using that in my group too.
Well, we didn't develop the term murder hobos. I would never want to take credit for that. That's a term from RPGNet that we learned by, wading in the shark pit of RPGNet for years.
Right.
Aptly termed, yes.
Yeah. I think that term comes from the conversation about murder hobos in fantasy Vietnam. And that's just such a weird and wonderful idea that we definitely, use it as a touchstone for this design.
How does the philosophy of Torchbearer then differ as far as from the PC's perspective from other traditional fantasy games?
Tor? Yeah.
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, based on from the PC, the player character perspective, how does the philosophy of Torchbearer differ from other traditional fantasy role-playing games?
Well, so I think it really comes down to this concept of conditions that we brought over from Mouse Guard, although we altered them for this game. So the idea, not just that you can get injured, but you might become hungry or sick or tired or even angry, and these things. As you're exploring these improbable ruins and that sort of thing, they can really affect you and your teamwork and your ability to make good decisions. And so that I think that's really where the feeling, the difference comes from.
Now, in the game also, I believe you guys do a lot of stressing on the logistics, the mechanics, light sources, for instance. Would you say, go a bit into that? I really thought that was pretty interesting about the game because I'm the type of person that I'm always asking the players in my games, how are you seeing? You're in the dark.
Right.
We we think that there's just a lot of drama around that kind of survival narrative. And we think it's something that the hobby has moved away from as we've moved more toward character-focused and story-focused games. It's easy to just move away from that kind of nitty-gritty stuff of
right, the PCs glow.
Sure. I mean, it's just, when you're dealing with feelings, it's just not as important to worry about the light source or your backpack or something like that. But that's something that we really enjoy about Moldvay is the survival aspect of play. And Moldvay is wonderful, but it is also a very simple game, and it doesn't it also moves away from that survival narrative as you get higher and higher level, and you can afford more and more equipment and whatnot. And it's not as interesting to us.
Right. Well, does that then continue on with per se? In the later editions of Dungeons and Dragons, they seem to focus more on the role as opposed to the preparation. Does Torchbearer, does it encourage the players to go into great detail on how they're doing something, and does that detail benefit their chances of success?
So I'll jump in and answer that. It does. You have to describe what you're doing, and in fact, by describing what you're doing, if you describe it well enough, and it makes sense to everyone, the GM might decide that that's a good idea and just let it succeed, which I think is a very sort of old school principle, directly out of the primer for old school play, right?
Totally agree.
And so, I really want the game to encourage that sort of clever and cunning play. And so preparation is important, bringing the right gear is important, but then the skills also allow you to really try to create that gear in play if you need it. Being a survivalist isn't just about picking the right camp. It's about being able to create tools, survival tools that you need as you go. So I think that there's a nice little interface there between the system and rolling for something and describing it. You're really encouraged to describe, but at the same time, if you describe it well, you might bypass an obstacle, and otherwise, you can test and come up with some tool that will help you. So I don't know if that answers the question.
No, that answers it really well. I've always thought it was kind of funny. When I was at GaryCon this last year, during one of the parties that goes on over there at night, I had a nice lengthy debate with somebody about whether or not it was sufficient simply to say, I made my roll, I climbed the wall, as opposed to somebody really going into detail about it. And I like the fact that you guys are putting that a bit of emphasis on the description as well as simply making the roll.
Yeah, one of the conceits is that the players can't actually say what skills they're using. The players say what their characters are doing, and then the GM calls for a skill roll if required. So you really can't do anything without that description.
Sounds like my games. I like how you guys incorporated that into actual rules of the game, so that's awesome. Nick, you have any questions?
Yeah, actually, I do have a couple of them. DM Nick here, by the way. One of the questions I had was on the characters themselves, as far as the system is being a skill-based system, like you said, with a D6 die pool kind of thing, which I really like. It kind of reminiscent of, I guess, with like the old Star Wars D6 game by West End, which a lot of us really enjoy. And it sounds somewhat like that. Is there an idea, like, as far as the concepts of characters, there's like character classes as well? Is it a little bit more open-ended in that regard? And also about maybe different races, if you can elaborate on that, if there are any.
Sure. So we took Moldvay as our sort of core inspiration. So we have classes. The classes and races, a race is a class.
Okay.
At least for right now. So you can play a dwarf adventurer, you can play a halfling burglar, you can play an elven ranger, or a human warrior, a human cleric, or human magician.
Okay.
And I could certainly see fans creating, another elven class or another dwarf class. I'm not sure that we're going to support that, but it's certainly possible. And also, we've for backers of the Kickstarter, we created a human thief and a human paladin, which we are going to release as soon as they're done. They're playtesting right now.
Great. Also, as far as a magic system, how does that work as far as a concept for that in the game?
We went full on Vancian spellcasting. So a magician has so many spell slots; they increase as he or she levels, you cast them, and then you get them back. You can rememorize when you camp.
Okay.
The magicians have spells that they know that they've got in their spell books, and the clerics can once they hit second level, they don't get any spells at first level except for a spell that's like Turn Undead.
Oh, okay.
At second level, they can pick any spell from the First Circle's prayer list. So it's very like early D&D in that respect.
Mm-hmm. I was just say it sounds very familiar to that. So people jumping in this, they'll look and say, I can see this and this. Oh, kind of cool here. All right, and there's some new stuff. So I like how you took some of those concepts, like you said, from the Metzer edition and maybe a little bit from AD&D, but you kind of you threw your own spin on it with a D6 dice pool system. I think that's a really neat, that's a rather unique way of going about it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're pretty excited about it, and it's a lot of fun to play.
Hey, Luke, could you go into the Let It Ride rule? I'd like to know a little bit more about that. Sorry, Nick, if I interrupted.
Oh, no problem. Go ahead.
Well, that's from Burning Wheel. I mean, we can talk about Burning Wheel.
You're right. You know what? I was at the wrong part of
there is
my notes.
No Let It Ride rule in Torchbearer.
Well, that actually ties into another question. I was going to ask about the interchangeability. How well do the various games? You have Mouse Guard, you have Burning Wheel, and Torchbearer. Is there any, a lot of times people will combine into hybrids their various editions of Dungeons & Dragons. Can you do anything like that with the various games that you've created?
Yeah, I was just thinking, could you conceivably do a Mouse Guard Torchbearer mashup, if you will? Could that happen?
Empire.
Yeah, it'd be very simple. All the core of Mouse Guard and Torchbearer are exactly the same. So, I mean, it would just require you choosing which weapon set to use and choosing which skill set to use. Or even
conditions.
Oh, right, and which conditions to use, yeah. But really, the core mechanics are the same, so you could totally play Saxon in Torchbearer if you really wanted to. Or,
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when we were first developing Torchbearer, or first releasing it, really, we released the character creation rules and told people to just grab their Mouse Guard books and play.
Okay.
That's how similar they are.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Now, but Burning Wheel and Burning Empire is very different. They still have the D6 die pool system, but everything else is very different. So that would be much more challenging.
I'm to this day surprised that no one has added plasma rifles to their Burning Wheel games. Like, I don't like, come on, people. It's been like 6 years.
Evolve or die.
Yeah.
So, speaking about playing the game itself, we've all been talking about. Let's get into a typical session, how it works between the GM and the player. One of you guys want to run us through how it would work? Like, say, we're walking into a cave. There's 4 of us, whatever, a mixed party, and the DM has a couple traps hidden. How would the thief go about, or the rogue go about finding that trap, or one of the players go about finding that trap, or character, I should say?
Sure, go for it.
Sure. So, I mean, the first thing is this sort of principle that we talk about called describe to live,
right.
Which is first the GM has to has to really describe the room. You've got to get a sense of what's in there, because he acts as or she acts as the player's eyes and ears, right? And the players are then going to, based on the GM's description, talk about what they're looking at, what they're poking, what tasting maybe, what they're hearing, or listening to. And based on that, you're going to get a conversation going between the GM and the players as to what actions the characters are taking. And when and I think this should probably sound pretty familiar to anyone out there that's playing D&D, right? Mm-hmm. When you get to something, a trap that's there. For instance, maybe there's a sleeping gas trap in the secret door. You have to describe how you're checking that door and what you're doing, and if the GM buys it, and it's a really good idea, he'll say it's a good idea, and you don't have to roll.
Sorry.
Or that's all right. Or if he thinks that you're interacting with it, but you haven't quite got his idea, he'll call for a scout test, right, to spot the trap.
Okay.
Right, and then based on that result, maybe if you successfully see it, for instance,
right,
he'll describe what you see, and then you've got to figure out how you're going to go about disarming it.
So let's go with the
based on your description, he might call for a Dungeoneer test to disarm the trap.
So let's go with your reference of the gas at the door, and my character's at the door, and I'm saying, he's tapping around the door frame, trying to look to see if there's a mechanism is being held on the door, so if he opens it, it'll spray something out, or shoot or trigger something, maybe a string for a dart, maybe, or possibly there might be a pitfall trap. I'll look under the door. Would that, as you as the GM, would you give me some allowance for dice there, or are you like, okay, that's fine, you find this? How would you handle that situation?
So in that case, I would say, okay, why don't you make a scout test, and I'd wait to see if anyone else is assisting you. I mean, do they describe?
Well, actually, my character is backing away as he's poking and prodding at the possibly trapped door. But I'm behind you the whole way there, Vince.
Yeah,
that's a fair result. So if someone is helping you, and it sounds like it would be helpful, I'd say, okay, you can provide a helping die if you have the skill.
I'll help them out. I will hold up my lantern there and turn up the brightness as much as I can to give them as much illumination. Because I'm playing the cleric, so I can't really find traps.
So, a cleric could in this game, which is as long as you have the scout skill, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if you don't, you could try with beginner's luck. So then you might provide a helping die, from your pool, that Vincent would add to his dice when he's rolling. And then, we'd see whether you meet the obstacle or not. You get the number of successes. If you succeed, great. You spot the trap. If you fail, then I have, as the GM, some options. I can either allow you to find it and give you a condition. I might describe you becoming angry as a result. Your friend, your supposed friend, is backing away and letting you take the brunt of this, so that makes you angry, but you find the trap. Or I could invoke a twist, right? Which the trap might go off, or some wandering monsters might come in and ambush you as you're fiddling around with the door.
Oh.
You bring up an interesting. Now, explain the conditions again. That's something I find kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So we have a track of conditions, starting from fresh, which is what you want to be. If you're fortunate enough, you leave town and you're fresh, and you have an additional die for everything. And then hungry and thirsty is the next one. Angry, exhausted, afraid, injured, sick, and dead. So those are the conditions. Each one has different effects. For instance, if you're afraid, you can't help anyone, and you can't make beginner's luck tests. You can't do things that you don't know how to do already.
Right.
And I'm going to assume the dead condition has an effect too, that you're dead.
You're dead. You can't help anyone. You can't test. It's a condition because a high level cleric could raise you and alleviate that condition, right?
Right. And theoretically, I suppose you could actually say Vince was trying to find the trap. He could technically succeed and still get the condition dead.
Correct.
Right, well, yes, but there is a limit on that. As the GM, you cannot give the dead condition unless they already have either the injured or sick condition, or they enter into a fight, with the intent to kill someone else.
Awesome. Now, these conditions also some of them can be removed, if I remember correctly, by which you encourage a lot of role-playing and players taking notes by the prologue, which I was reading in there. Every session, one of the players gets the spotlight to recap, and if the players agree that what happened, they get to remove one of the minor conditions. Am I correct on that?
Luke, why don't you take this one?
Yeah. At the top of every session, we realize that people forget when they play once a week or once every 2 weeks, whatever. So we have a mechanic to encourage people to sit down and remember what character they're playing and where they were. So one player recounts what happened. And we've also learned in our experience that no one ever really wants to do this, or maybe there's just the one person that wants to do it every time. Mm-hmm. So we had to create an incentive system for this to happen. And so you can alleviate a condition, you can recover some of your nature. So there's an incentive to sit down and be able to recount what happened last session. It really works.
Yeah.
It's really nice. So you get a nice story about what happened, and usually people chime in. Their memories start to loosen up, like, oh right, and then I did this, and then you did that, and then you get to recover from being hungry, angry, afraid, or exhausted, just not injured or sick.
Right.
It sounds like to me that the overall gameplay is very episodic and theatrical. I guess would be two terms you could call it. It has I could really picture in my mind as far as a game like this could go. It has the feel of a episodic film or a series, if you will.
Maybe. I don't know.
It just seems like that's how it really. It sounds like it kind of flows that way,
Yeah, I think another way to say it is, and I've had this happen when I've ran games at conventions before. You'll get some of the people at the table who want more of a crunchy role-based dungeon crawl, and you'll have other people at the table who are into it a little bit more for the story. It sounds like Torchbearer gives the players a little bit of both worlds in a pretty elegant fashion.
It sure does.
Yeah, I think you'll find with all of our games that Tor and I are very interested in the game itself and creating a deep experience for the user where there's parts to move. There's a reason to play our games. There's a reason to play our games instead of another game. You're going to get a different experience. But in that, we love role-playing games. We love sitting down with a group of other people and seeing things from a character's perspective. And in a role-playing game, that has to be important, right? There has to be a reason why you're seeing things from their perspective. There has to be the game mechanics have to plug into that perspective in some way. Otherwise it's just a board game, right? Where you're talking in funny voices.
I like that. That's good. Real quick, how now you guys did the kickoff for Torchbearer? That was at Gen Con, wasn't it? Unless I'm totally off base on that one.
No, we haven't officially launched Torchbearer yet. We did a Kickstarter for it.
I thought I'd read that in the article that you guys were planning to it too.
Oh yeah, we were. We as with all things in life, that slipped, and we could not. We couldn't get it together for the for Gen Con.
Yeah, so we didn't have any books yet.
You guys just got the books
that
recently.
Can't create a problem.
Yeah, so they're going out now, and as soon as our backers have them, then we will launch officially for everyone else.
And will that be now? I know that you did one. There was one edition of Mouse Guard that was a box set. Do you have any plans to do maybe a box set for Torchbearer?
Nope. We did a box set for Mouse Guard, and that is why we're not doing a box set for Torchbearer.
Okay.
And there'll be PDFs, I'm assuming, also for Torchbearer?
Yep.
Yeah, the PDF is already out there and available.
I thought it was, but yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it right now on RPG Now. Is it on? It's up on Drive-Thru.
It's not there yet.
Okay.
It is on. It's on Drive-Thru. Yeah, I saw it today.
Yeah, it is on Drive-Thru.
Okay.
Oh wow! All right. Well, I guess Luke and I need to talk some more.
Now, real quick, I think I thought I had read that Tor, you and Luke had kind of swapped roles for Torchbearer. Is that correct? That normally Luke was always doing game design and you were doing I'm sorry. Yeah, you were doing the editing, and I believe usually Luke would do the game design. Is that true?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I took the 4 on this one and did the design. Luke has certainly given me a lot of help along the way.
What prompted the change of roles after you guys had already done it the other way for the last 2 or 3 games?
Well, I had been working on this game sort of on the side for several years, and then Luke came along and said, what you're doing is kind of cool. We should finish this. I just continued in the lead.
Yeah. Tor was working on this since 2008 when we launched Mouse Guard pretty soon after, and the game's been through a lot of changes. But you should understand what it means to be an editor in a role playing game sense of the word. Tor wasn't a copy editor or
Oh no, that's like that. Yeah, exactly.
We work pretty closely. Whenever I'm ready to move on an idea, I come to Tor first, and I have him look at it, and he asks me all sorts of tough questions, and he helps me think about it in different ways. So that's largely what I did for him for Torchbearer, and Tor's a much gentler soul than I am, so he doesn't usually crack the whip quite as hard as I do. But once we decided to do this, I set us to a pretty stiff pace as far as finishing development and getting it out there. We've been working on Torchbearer for 4 years, but final production, was 6 months to really get the game out the door, and commissioning all of the art, finishing all of the writing, all the editing, and whatnot. And then in the middle of that, running a Kickstarter campaign, which was insane, which was not smart. It's a lot of work running a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest...
I'm sorry about that.
I was just going to say that I think that the biggest change for me in all this, aside from actually doing the writing rather than the editing, has been the doing some of the art direction.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was the major shift in responsibilities was, hey, this is your game. You talk to the artists.
Yeah, and you know what? That's actually what I was going to ask. It sounds like you guys have brought back quite a few of the artists you're used to working with. Kurt Komoda, Richard Luchek, Jen Rogers.
Yep.
And another old school artist I noticed, Russ Nicholson, who did a lot of the art on the Fiend Folio, and I really enjoy his work.
Yeah, we loved working with Russ, and hope to continue working with Russ in the future. He was very easy to work with, and just love his work.
What was David Peterson like working with? Now, he did the art for Mouse Guard, correct?
Yeah, well,
I know he did the graphic novels, but
David is Mouse Guard, yeah, and he is incredibly exacting to work with on his stuff.
Oh, his art's phenomenal.
Yeah, his art is fantastic, and he wanted to be a part of every step of the way of the role-playing game book, which was a relief. So he was a pleasure to work with on that, and he really wanted to work on other projects with me. We've had a bunch of other projects kind of come up and then go away in the past few years, and then when Torchbearer came up, he was swamped with the Black Axe and just utterly buried, and so he couldn't even respond to my emails for like 3 weeks at a time. And then, so, you know, throughout the process, I was just very gentle. I just put it out there like, hey, love to have you on this book. I think you like this stuff as much as we do. You know, just let me know if you have any time. You know, these are the pieces, like, and, you know, this is what we have on offer. Like any of these, let me know. And so every so often I would get a, like, kind of like a, hey, yep, okay. Just, you know, I just need a little more time. Like, and then, you know, finally he was like, I will have something to you in 3 weeks. Well, you know, what's available? You know, I was like, well, I'd love to have you do this. He's like, what else is available? I was like, ooh, what does that mean? So it was a mystery. I didn't know what he was going to turn in until the very end. And he turned in that, sorry, I'm not, you guys don't curse on yours, but he turned in that amazing owlbear piece, which we're super, super happy about.
Yeah,
very cool. Well, how did you guys come about recruiting Peter Mullen and Russ Nicholson and Jeff D? How did that come about?
Well, when we were talking about how we wanted the book to look, you know, we started shortlisting the artists that we really felt would fit with the project. One of those artists on the shortlist was Errol Otis, and we spoke with Errol, and he was excited about the project, and we were excited about it, but we couldn't get our schedules to match up. We just hadn't given him enough time. So we hope to work with Errol in the future, but we couldn't get him onto this. So when we started looking at other artists that we loved, you know, Russ Nicholson was one that both of us were like, yes, you know, we need to get Russ, and Jeff D too, and Luke had you'd supported him in some of his Kickstarter stuff in. Remaking some of his art, right? That's how you made the connection.
Yeah, for Jeff, I had backed one of his Kickstarters where he's redoing some of the art. I got some of the stuff. I think I got the Brain Devourer from the Expedition to the Barrier Peaks.
Oh yeah, the Intellect Devourer part.
Intellect Devourer. Sorry.
Yeah. He's even doing a Kickstarter now to do some more of his. Art, I guess he did for like the Slave Lord series, so he's still doing that. Yeah,
I think that's really cool. And yeah, it's a great way for us, you know, for those of us who still have all those modules to kind of, you know, get in touch with that stuff and support it. Because certainly those modules were pretty cheap back in the day. So, and then Russ, Tor and I were just poking around and digging through a lot of the OSR stuff and just looking to see who is still working. And I saw, I think one of the OSR companies had published something of Russ's, and I was like, what is that? Is he still working? And then I finally managed to track him down. It was hard. You know, we were like, can you illustrate the whole book? Can you do everything? Every piece of art? And he's like, well, no, but I can, I can definitely do these things. And he ended up doing 4 pieces for us, and they're excellent. All of them. They're really exciting.
Very nice.
And Peter Mullen, I don't want to leave him out either, especially since he did the beautiful cover.
Yeah.
I saw his work in DCC from Goodman Games, Dungeon Crawl Classics.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. So I knew I wanted to work with him, and we thought that he would just be a perfect fit for the concept we had for the cover, and I feel like he delivered above and beyond.
Yeah, it was actually Errol recommended him when he said when he passed on the cover. He said, "Well, you might check out Peter Mullen," and so that's when it really clicked for Tor. It was like, yeah, we got to get this guy.
Well, it sounds like you got a great lineup.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorites of the book, and who kind of just very quietly just knocks it out of the park, are our own crew, but especially Jordan Worley. If you look at his pieces throughout the book, he just is just really solid, just beautiful illustrator, and like if you look at the town piece, just so much character and action. In in that tiny little frame. He just does such a great job. And he did the character design for our iconic characters, and then, so really helped kind of infuse the whole book with a sense of style. And he's just super low key, but just solid.
Very cool.
That's very cool.
Okay.
I had a question on, you kind of mentioned that owlbear piece, which I can't wait to see, but I guess going along that about monsters, what sort of creatures, what sort of monsters are in the Torchbearer game? Obviously, you got the owlbear, or something similar to it. So, what other sort of nasties could someone expect when playing Torchbearer?
Perhaps the Brain Devourer?
Okay.
Well, the funny thing is we don't actually have an owlbear statted up in the book, for which I'm kicking myself.
It's coming, don't worry.
It's coming. So we tried to really get at some of the classics, right? So we wanted to very quickly give you some of the classic monsters that you could just throw into your game, and use them as examples to create your own monsters. Let's see, I've got it right here. So we've got barrow wights, black dragons, bugbears, creeping ooze, which is sort of our stand-in for all of the various slimes and jellies. Mm-hmm. Dire wolves, ghouls, giant bats, gnolls, goblins, giant rats, of course. Got a guardian statue, a harpy, hobgoblin, kobolds, lizard men, orcs. We've got a red dragon, a stone spider, which is very poisonous.
Okay.
Tomb guardians, which are your basic animated skeletons. Mm-hmm. Trolls, and were-rats. And then we've got a bunch of human NPCs or halfling or elven or dwarven as well. So that's what we've got to start, and we'll be building on those over time. We've already had a bunch of monsters built by fans over on our forums. One of our fans has been running the Moat House, and I think eventually he's going to do Temple of Elemental Evil. So the Village of Hamlet. So he's made all of the monsters that you need to run the Moat House, which is pretty awesome.
Very cool. And I just have one other question. I guess kind of putting this all together, the campaign world. Do you have like a default campaign world setting that you have kind of a idea for Torchbearer, or could a DM kind of plug in whatever he has for his own concept of a game world? How does that work?
So with the core book, you plug it in. In fact, we have sort of stats for towns. The idea that like Elfhome or Dwarfland or the Wizard's Tower, that sort of thing, and you're supposed to come up with a name and description for it. Mm-hmm. The busy crossroads, that sort of thing. So with the core book, the idea is that the GM will come up with their setting and plug it in. But on the Kickstarter, we one of our rewards is a gazetteer that I'm hard at work at now, on now, called Mittermark, mm-hmm. which is going to be a setting. So all the backers will get it in PDF for free, and we'll probably put it up for sale after that. So that's going to be Luke. How did you describe it? It's Icelandic Vikings in North America, kind of thing. But with
yeah,
the idea, civilization has been built upon ruined civilization.
Right. No, it's right. It's Icelandic Vikings in North America if North America had been conquered by the Romans.
There you go.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah. That's a very interesting twist.
It's layered. It's a deeply layered archaeological dig.
Awesome. That's a nice spin. I like that.
Yeah, I do too. But you could it sounds like even with Torchbearer, you could take either your own original idea of a game world, campaign setting, or you can even maybe plug in something else that's pre-published you like and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to try the Torchbearer rules with maybe like World of Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms. As long as you use that as a basis and use the Torchbearer rules, it sounds like almost any campaign setting could work.
Yeah, as long as
100% support that.
Yeah, and as long as it's grim and there are swords and torches, you'll be fine.
Okay, then I'm sold.
So how will what if I wanted to play a character from Mouse Guard, yet I wanted to fight an owlbear?
Well, you'll have to wait until we release the owlbear stats, but it'll be no problem.
Nice. Those are tough mice.
Yeah, totally no problem. You're going to have to figure out your nature scale or whatever, your natural order. Like, you're not just going to be able to stick a sword in an owlbear because you're a tiny little mouse, but you're going to be able to get your mouse army together and your mouse scientists and take that owlbear out.
And you'll have to go to Mouse War to take
It'll
out
be the great Mies Horde.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right, so seeing that Torchbearer's levels 1 to 5, what is the next plan for the actual default game? Is it going to be 6 to 10, or you have no idea at this particular time?
We are playtesting lots of additional material for the game, and we have a lot of exciting ideas for how to expand the game. We're interested in giving you guys levels 6 to 10, but we don't want to just hand them out willy-nilly.
Right.
But we'll probably give out levels 6 to 10 before there's another book, honestly, because we want to make sure that they fit.
Right. But yeah, that stuff just needs to be play-tested and play-tested extensively. We don't want to put it out there and then have to fix it. So
yeah, the game's going to change too with level 6 to 10. We expect you guys to overcome your murder hobo origins and get into different kinds of trouble.
Yes.
I was born a murder hobo, and that's how I'll die.
That's okay too.
All right, well,
you
gentlemen,
might be a murder hobo with a castle, though.
We appreciate you coming on the podcast. Thank you very much. If people want to find out more information about Torchbearer, where can they go?
BurningWheel.com has the Torchbearer forums, counterintuitively, and TorchbearerRPG.com is our kind of host website for news and whatnot. But you can also follow me, Burning_Luke, and Mimir9 for Tor on Twitter.
We also have a thriving Google Plus community.
Oh yeah.
So anyone that's on Google Plus, you should join up and join the conversation.
I'm there. Anyone else there? They should be right now.
Totally.
Okay, I'm going. Sorry.
All right, come on, Nick. Let's go.
So thank you very much for having us, guys. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, good luck with Torchbearer. It sounds great.
Thanks, guys.
So much.
And I'm going to look into Mouse Guard as well. I was always a big fan of Redwall, so.
Yeah, that's always seemed reminiscent to me as well, so yeah.
Okay, great.
Cool.
So I'm going to say keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
The Roll for Initiative podcast is a production of Wild Games Productions in association with D20Radio.com. You can visit us at rfipodcast.com or contact us on our forums at osrgaming.org or even by calling us at 570-865-4210. This podcast is produced for entertainment purposes only. All other uses are prohibited. And remember, if your magic missile spell doesn't automatically hit, you're playing the wrong edition. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative.